I just remember um, my doctor looked at me. He's like, whenever it spreads to your liver and it goes through this and like breaking down the whole like the stages and stuff, whatever. He's like, this is stage 4. I just started crying because I'm like, oh my God. Like to me, stage 4 is like, it's so scary. My name is Albita. I am 33 years old. I had to think about that for a second. But I'm 33 years old. I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Been here since like 2018. And I was diagnosed stage 4 colon cancer in January of 2024. I make the joke always that I feel like a little hobbit in Lord of the Rings, I was given this unexpected journey and kind of like just battling it through. It's one of those things like I'm grateful to like experience it the way that I've been experiencing, where I have good resources and people behind me and stuff, whatever. But it's like, a club nobody wants to be part of. My first symptoms started from what I can remember, was in 2019. I remember it was like so vivid because it was one of my favorite DJs were playing at Red Rocks, and I was partying pretty hard. And I remember going to the bathroom and being in a lot of pain, like in my stomach area. So I went to the bathroom, and that's the first time I saw blood in my stool. And I remember thinking, oh, I really should just take a chill pill and not party as much, blah, blah, blah. But that was like the first thing where it's like something is wrong. And I just kind of like ignored it, thinking I was like partying too hard or just like not taking very well care of my body and stuff. But before that, it was always had like small like stomach issues, just never always thought it was IBS. And that's what I thought originally, like the blood in my stool was just like a symptom of like IBS. And then, COVID happened, and I was just like kind of chalked it all up to just being under a lot of stress, and just like kept telling myself that it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't until I actually moved down to the Springs in 2022 that I was like, okay, I should probably get this taken care of, because at that point I was starting to gain weight. I've always been an avid gym girly, and just like active in my life in general. But at that point, I was starting to gain weight in my midsection, and I could not lose it, no matter how many like calorie deficient I was in, no matter how much like I wasn't drinking alcohol or anything like that. I was gaining weight in my midsection. And I think the most I got was like 133 right before my diagnosis. And I went to my doctor originally in 2022. And she had tried to get me to see a gastro almost immediately. But for myself, it was just like really scary, number one. And then number two, also, I had a really high deductible at that point. And I knew that I was gonna have to pay a lot of money out of pocket, which I didn't have the financial resources to do at the time. So I was just like, I told myself, or my doctor, I was like, let me just see if like going like, I think did gluten-free and like vegetarian or vegan or something, and see if that'll improve my symptoms. And we kind of did that for a little bit, and it did seem to help. But then I think November of 2023, it was before that. It was in August of 2023. I remember like I was still going to the gym quite a bit and stuff, whatever, and I was having a lot of pain every time I went to the bathroom. So I went back to my doctor, and she did another referral because my other one had expired. But she did another referral to the gastro, and I called them up and set up that appointment. And from like us talking, me and the gastro, who was amazing, he was like, I'm pretty sure it's just IBS with constipation. He's like, but I do want to just go in there and look and make sure that there's nothing that there's nothing else going on in there, whatever, because of the constant blood that I was losing. So, and also just like the issues that I was having to go into the bathroom. But we talked about like some physical therapy with like to help with like IBS with constipation and stuff, whatever. And they ended up moving my appointment, which was originally supposed to be in March. They ended up giving me a colonoscopy appointment for January of 2024. Right before I had gone in, I remember like the thought crossing my head, and I was like, if it is like, just one step at a time. That's all you can do. I was like, you're going to take a really good nap. And then when you wake up, you're going to have a really good cheeseburger. Because, you can't eat before that. I was so cold just from like the colonoscopy prep and stuff, whatever. So I was like, I remember thinking like, I wanted cheeseburgers so bad during this whole time. So I woke up and he came in and, he was like, I did find a tumor. He was like, but it's not protruding, or it's not like obstructing your whole colon. It's about like 6 inches from like where, like, I think on the entrance or something, whatever. I forget like the math of where specifically it is, but he discussed it. He's like, I found it. He's like, it's not obstructing, so I think we caught it early. They did tattoo it, and he was like seemed pretty confident that, we could just cut it out, and it looked like it was still localized from what his experience was, pretty much. He's like, but he went ahead and ordered a CT scan, an MRI. He got me set up with a oncologist and also with a genetics counselor and stuff, just to see if it was potentially something genetic wise, or if it was just random and stuff. I remember being shocked, and also just kind of like in the back of my head, kind of just being relieved, honestly, just knowing that there was something wrong and it just wasn't, like in my head kind of thing, whatever. But after scans and everything, and discussing with my oncologist, because we did a CT scan and MRI scan. The CT scan revealed that there was about 3 liver mets or metastasis in my liver, which, at the point I didn't know staging. This was like all new verbiage to me. So I remember his nurse practitioner calling me, and we discussed that. And she was like, when do you meet with your oncologist? And I told her when. And whenever I officially got my stage 4 diagnosis was in February, after they reviewed the scans and stuff, whatever. And initially, like, I just remember my doctor looked at me. He's like, whenever it spreads to your liver and it goes through this, and like breaking down the whole, like, the stages and stuff, whatever, he's like, this is stage 4. I just started crying because I'm like, oh my God. Like, to me, stage 4 is like, it's so scary, because especially for somebody who, I've worked in the medical field and stuff, like as a pharmacy tech, since 2014. So I understand a lot of medical terminology, but like cancer in itself, I didn't understand at all. So to me, I was just like, I'm gonna die, My first initial was like, I'm dead, blah, blah, blah. But even he said it, he's like, that doesn't mean it's a death sentence. He's like, it is still very treatable. It is still very curable. He's like, there's people who live with stage 4 for years. There's people who don't, unfortunately. He's like, but I think in your case, with it being wild type, because there was no genetic markers or anything that showed that that it was like ran in my family or anything like that. He was like, I think, you have a really good chance of beating this. He was like, overall and stuff, whatever. So initially I was very scared and very, very sad. And just honestly, like, I was very angry at myself for not listening to my body sooner. Because it's like, if I had done it, whenever I first noticed the blood and like the constant pain and stuff, whatever, I probably would be on the other side of this journey at this point. So, but I try not to focus on that, because I'm like, it doesn't help to be angry about stuff like that. We did 4 rounds of chemo, liver resection. We did, I think, 3 more rounds of chemo after that. And then we did the Y90 procedure, and I had to take a break from chemo from that. And then we did 3 more rounds of chemo after that. And then we went for colon resection and hysterectomy. And that's when I had Stella comes into play, my ileostomy. So Stella's stoma. Had her since November of 2024. And then after that, we started the new chemo regimen. And I've had, I think, 5 rounds of that as far. So 14 rounds of chemo. I did do some short burst radiation towards the main tumor in my colon. That was, I think, back in September. It's been quite a journey. So, yeah, so we did that, and then we got the main tumor removed. As of right now, the only cancer that I actively have is in my liver, and it still, unfortunately, is 3 spots just because I had those 2 new spots pop up after my colon resection surgery. I will be having a new surgery just to get a pump that will deliver more intense chemo towards my liver to hopefully clear that up and get it either to a point of being resectable and cutting everything out, or being eligible to do a live liver transplant. Um, so that, because so far it's been localized just to my liver. Thank God. The biggest one has been fatigue and brain fog. I always, like, I was always a little scatterbrained sometimes, and would forget things and stuff. So I was just like, oh, whatever, haha. But since treatment started, it has been so much more intense, and like to the point where it almost felt like unmanageable for myself. And um, yeah, there it goes. I was gonna say there it goes. And so like the chemo fog as well, or like the chemo brain. With my second line of treatment though, one thing that they tell you about it, but I still was not prepared for it. Um or even before all this, I had really long black hair. It was like down to my elbows and stuff, whatever. And I had always had long hair. But since treatment has gone on, I've had to like cut it shorter, and just because I'm losing so much and just like getting thinner and stuff, whatever. So this is my latest do, whatever. Just because, and even still, I'm still losing a lot. I'm like, I should just shave it, but I'm not there yet. And also like, another thing that has come up is just the changes in my hair texture that have kind of been just different for me, like they talk about the chemo curls and stuff, and I didn't have that with my first line of chemo. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll be the lucky one that just gets to keep my hair and stuff, whatever. But with the second line, I'm definitely noticing more and more is falling out. The texture of it is changing. Even my hairstylist, like, whenever I went to go get my last haircut, she was like, I can literally see like the change of where I've been taking breaks and stuff, which is not like, it's just shell shock, but it's also just like, oh man, it's kind of like just a reminder of like, oh, your body's really going through this right now. Also another thing has been like acne. Before, I would have like some spots pop up here and there and stuff, whatever. But now it's like I have to take certain prescriptions to make sure to keep it under control, and seeing a dermatologist to make sure it's manageable. Because at one point it wasn't, like, my whole face was, I felt like I had the worst like sun, like third degree like sunburn outside. Like I had been laying out in the pool all day. Like my skin was, the barrier was really weak. I had like I put on lotion and it would like burn type of thing. So that was probably the biggest like setback that I've encountered so far, where I'm like, oh my god, how. And like probably the first time that I really asked myself is like, how far am I willing to put up with stuff, like as far as like chemo treatments and stuff. Because some people, or initially, my thought was whatever it takes, whatever it takes. If it takes my hair, then it takes it, and then just push through to make sure that I can like eventually get a point of being of no evidence of disease. But since whenever like that started happening, and it would like hurt to put on lotion, it would hurt to take a shower, I ended up having to get like a soft water filter and stuff, whatever, just because like it was like so painful around my back, around my face and stuff, whatever. And my nails were also starting to come up for some reason. So I'm like, how much. That's the first time was like, how far am I really willing to like push through. And I still don't really have a quite answer for that, but I think that was like the first time where I was just initially, where I really just kind of like had to sit down with myself and realize like what I'm actually putting my body through to get through this kind of thing. So that was hard. Initially, when I had gotten it back in November, I remember like I remember not liking it and just feeling very like self-conscious about it, and just like, because it is just a different, completely change to your body to look down and see your intestine. You're like, oh my god, and it was the weirdest thing ever. But since then, I've actually learned to just really embrace it and really love it overall. Like, the Coloplast has like some all black bags that look really cool, and I wear a lot of black clothing. So it just, instead of like having to constantly hide it and stuff, whatever, or having it stick out like a sore thumb, I'm able to like kind of incorporate it and make it a little bit like just look like it's part of my outfit now. Um, but yeah, so living with ileostomy, it's definitely been a change. Before I would eat whatever, drink whatever, not think any of the consequences. But now with seeing like my bag and like the output that comes with it, I'm more aware of like staying away from like certain fast foods, staying away from like certain dyes in foods, just because of like how it comes out. It just makes you rethink of what you're putting in your body. And also like just like high sugary stuff, whatever. Like they'll notice whenever I have like more sugars and stuff, I tend to lose a lot more like water, so like dehydrates you. So I'm more aware of what I put in my body, and it's helped me. Honestly, it's helped me develop a like better relationship with myself as far as that. Like I've always been, active. Like I said, going to the gym and stuff, whatever. But there's all, with food and stuff, there was always a weird relationship, just because I felt like if I ate like garbage, I felt like garbage, I would kind of just get on to myself about that. And I remember carrying like so much stuff. Like I had like basically acting like if my bag was going to explode and I had to do a whole new change type of thing, whatever is what I had. I felt like it was a little too over the top. Since then, I've become more comfortable and stuff, whatever, traveling with an ileostomy. But it is still just something that takes longer. Whenever I go to the bathroom, it's not like, oh, just come in and pee out real quick, whatever, and just like hop in and hop out. It's like I have to take time and stuff, whatever. And I have had encounters where people just like kind of slam on the or like knock on the door a lot and stuff, whatever. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I've just it's an emergent. It's a medical thing going on. I'm not just in here, lily dallying and stuff, whatever. Um, and another thing that's just like made me more aware of is just like the absorption. Like I have to take a multivitamin every day, and like we have to like add over the counter stuff or stuff just to like supplement my body because it isn't absorbing as much nutrients as it would normally. So that's been an adjustment from someone who would rarely take any kind of medication to having to make sure to like have to take, over the counter multivitamins, calcium, potassium, and just making sure I have everything in me so that I don't lose out on those key ingredients and, suffer those consequences later on. I don't get sad much because for the most part I'm just like a little hobbit just trotting through. But there are days where I mourn the life of the girl, who had first moved here, was like partying, having the time of her life and stuff, whatever. And just not having to stress about everything else on top of just making sure that I survive type of thing. Even recently, like I've tried to incorporate the habits that I had before, like the going to concerts and stuff, whatever, like living my life normally. And I do notice a huge setback as far as like energy levels and as far as like even, which I don't drink much anyways, now, but like I'm noticing more and more that like anytime I do have like one or two drinks, like I just feel like neuropathy in my fingers. So I figure it's probably from the chemo side effect and stuff, whatever, which isn't the worst thing in the world to not, want to drink. But I'm like, well, there goes my days of margaritas and a patio and a sit a day kind of thing. So I do mourn the life of a girl, and stuff, whatever. But one thing I tell myself, I'm like, looking back now and comparing, it's like, it's a lifetime different. But I was like, I feel over, not to sound cheesy or anything, but I feel like so much stronger as a human being, and it's like that girl beforehand, she has no idea like how strong she actually can be. And I don't think I would have ever like reached into this part of myself if I wasn't in this journey. It's mostly just like one step at a time, like there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I, especially at the beginning of my diagnosis for myself, I remember thinking like, oh my God, this is going to be like the hardest thing of my life. Um, and feeling very overwhelmed and stuff, whatever, and just feeling very down, and like I didn't know where I could like get my footing in. But that's the great thing about, just like talking about it and just reaching out to people, is that people that do pull through and give you hope and like um overall like help you see the end of the like tunnel, or like see the picture overall. It's like it, it's easy to want to not to continue, because then you don't have to stress as much about like what could happen, or what if it doesn't happen, or you don't have to worry about failure and stuff, whatever. But for myself, like I've always been pretty positive overall, and I'm like it's not the best. It sucks to be dealt this hand, but also it's like if you just push forward, and then you see it throughout at the end of the way, you don't want to look back and have regrets of not giving it your all and stuff. So that's kind of what I tell myself. It's just, whenever I start to get very like down bad, I call it, I'm just like, it's pretty bad and it could be worse. But there's no sense, it's like obviously take time to feel bad for yourself. Take time to feel your emotions. I go to therapy as well, which helps a lot. I don't take meds for that yet, but we've talked about it and stuff, whatever, just because it is overwhelming. Life in general is very overwhelming, and then to have to deal with this, it's even more overwhelming. But I tell myself, I'm like, just one day at a time. You can only handle what's in front of you, and don't stress about the past, or like, don't stress about the past, ignoring symptoms. Don't stress about the future if you're not going to make it, or if you are going to make it. It's just like, just focus on living now. And that's what I do. I was like, if every day that I wake up and that I feel good, I get myself out there, and sometimes I'll go for a little hike if I feel like it. And if I don't beat myself up about it. How much having a good, like, positive mental attitude, I call it PMA, will, I don't think it'll change your diagnosis, but it will change your outlook on and your perspective on everything going forward, where even if you are if things don't work out the way that you want them to, you're not left feeling less. So I think the biggest thing is just like positivity. It's like yeah, it sucks to lose my lose my uterus and stuff, and it sucks that I have a stoma, but her name is Stella, and she's kind of awesome to have, because I don't have to worry about other things when traveling and stuff, whatever. And I've actually had quite a bit of good opportunities come up since my diagnosis. Like, I got to meet one of my favorite DJs at Red Rocks, and we did a whole like underground tunnel and stuff, whatever. So it's like, just talking about it and communicating with people has opened up a lot of opportunities that I don't think I would have ever like found myself in, and come across people who honestly I feel like are absolute warriors, who have gone through their battle themselves, or are going through it and stuff, whatever. So yeah, just PMA till the end.